Hello, and welcome to this presentation on understanding the three levels of thinking. In this video, we're going to build a shared understanding of the three levels of thinking and reading comprehension. Those are text-based, inferential, and critical thinking. These levels help us move beyond asking whether an answer is correct and instead focus on how students are thinking when they respond to comprehension questions. So let's go ahead and get started. Why the levels of thinking matter. When students struggle with reading comprehension, the issue is often not motivation or effort, but a mismatch between the thinking a question requires and the thinking the student can do independently. Not all comprehension questions ask students to think in the same way. Understanding these differences allows us to respond instructionally rather than simply reteaching content. This is based on research, and the framework is grounded in work from Mary and Anthony Applegate, whose research on thoughtful literacy emphasis depth of thinking rather than question difficulty. From this perspective, students' errors are value, and they give us insight into what might be going on. They tell us where thinking breaks down and what kind of instruction is needed next. So let's first look at text-based thinking. Text-based thinking is the foundation of comprehension. These questions ask students to locate or recall information that is explicitly stated in the text. The answer is there, but students may struggle to find it or recognize when it is paraphrased. If students have difficulty here, levels of thinking become much harder. So, for example, if a student is trying to locate a text-based piece of information, there might be a synonym to where they're having trouble understanding and interpreting that. If we can troubleshoot those areas, we can help students have a clear and path to answering text-based questions. The next is inferential thinking. Inferential thinking requires students to combine clues from the text with their own background knowledge. The answer is not directly stated, but is supported by the text. The level of thinking often needs explicit instruction because many students are expected to infer without being taught how to do so. So, for example, if the text had stated that the ground of the grass was wet, students would have to make an inference based on prior knowledge if the text didn't state what caused the grass to be wet. And that information could be given through context clues and also using information from their background experiences. Critical thinking is the final level. Critical thinking represents the highest level of comprehension. At this level, students are asked to evaluate characters' actions, evaluate judgments or decisions, or defend opinions using evidence from the text. Strong critical thinking depends on a solid text-based and inferential skills, as well as consistent modeling by the teacher. So, for example, a student might be asked to form a judgment about a character, whether or not they thought that they were sneaky. And as long as they support their judgment through citing evidence from the text, then it is a good judgment. So you could argue from either side, depending if the text supported that judgment. So it's really important that we model this in order for students to understand where we're going with this.